3 years, 1,095 days. That's how long it took me to become someone they wouldn't recognize. I didn't plan it that way. I didn't sit down and make a list of all the things I would change to become untouchable. I just left. And then I kept leaving. I left the city, the memories, the person who had spent 3 years trying to be enough for someone who would never see him. I left the version of myself that believed love meant waiting, hoping, forgiving things that shouldn't be forgiven. Bizun was supposed to be temporary, a place to hide, to heal, to figure out who I was without him. But the sea air cleared my lungs. The silence in my small apartment became a comfort instead of an absence. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since before Jaehyun told me it was messy and unbecoming of someone who wanted to be taken seriously. I painted the ocean, the sky, the way light hit the water at dawn. I painted without anyone watching. I painted for myself. The gallery found me, a small space in a quiet neighborhood, run by an older woman named Mrs. Choi, who saw my work at a local exhibition and asked if I wanted to show more. I said yes. I didn't know why. I just said yes. One exhibition became two. Two became four. Within a year, my name, the new name I'd chosen, the name that belonged only to me, was being mentioned in arts publications. Within 2 years, I had a reputation. Within 3, I had a life. He had friends who didn't know my past. I had mornings that started with coffee and sunlight instead of the weight of wondering where he was. I had a therapist who told me gently that I had never been the problem. I had a small apartment overlooking the sea, a gallery I was proud of, and a quiet, steady happiness that surprised me every day. Also had the star pendant. It sat in a small box on my dresser, next to the photograph of my grandmother. I didn't wear it. I didn't need to, but I kept it. A reminder of what I'd survived. A reminder that I was the one who reached for something new. I was 29 years old, and for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I wanted to be. 3,000 miles away. In the apartment we'd once shared, Jaehyun was still Watinji. Didn't know that, of course. I'd stopped thinking about him years ago, but he was there, sitting in the dark. The same apartment, the same furniture, the same faint stain on the floor where the cake had fallen. He'd had the carpet cleaned 3 times, but he could still see it. He could always see it. The private investigator was his 5th. The first 4 had come back with nothing. No trace. No leads. No sign that I had ever existed. Jaehyun paid them anyway, and then he paid the 5th. And then he sat in the dark and waited for a phone call that never came. Mr. Kang. The investigator's voice was clipped. Professional. I've told you before, there's no record of Seojin under that name anywhere. No employment. No lease agreements. No banking activity.
It's like he disappeared. He didn't disappear. Jaehyun's voice was hoarse. He'd been drinking. He was always drinking now. He's out there. He's just hiding. With respect, sir, after 3 years. Keep looking. He hung up. He poured another drink. He looked at the photograph on the wall. Us at a party, me laughing. Him looking at me like I was the only person in the room. He'd looked at me like that once. He couldn't remember why he'd stopped. He thought about the night I left. He'd woken up reaching for me, and I wasn't there. He'd called my name, searched the apartment, found the note on the kitchen counter. Don't look for me. 3 words. No explanation. No goodbye. Just silence. He'd called my phone 100 times that day, 1,000 times that week. Eventually, the number was disconnected. He'd called my mother, who told him she didn't know where I was, and that she didn't want to hear from him again. He'd called Minhyuk, who was the last person he wanted to talk to, and Minhyuk had said the same thing. He's gone. Let him go. He couldn't let me go. He couldn't let go of the way I'd looked at him when I walked in. The cake falling from my hands. My face crumbling like the frosting on the floor. He couldn't let go of the way I'd said his name the last time. Not angry. Not sad. Just finished. He'd been looking for 3 years. He'd destroyed his business, his friendships, his family's patience. He'd lost everything. And still, he couldn't stop. He thought about me every day, every hour, every minute. He thought about the way I laughed. The way I bit my lip when I was concentrating. The way I'd curl into him at night and whisper, I love you, like it was the only truth I knew. He thought about the way I'd said it that last night. I love you too. He'd believed me. He believed me, and he'd gone back to sleep, and when he woke up, I was gone. He poured another drink. He stared at the photograph, and he waited for a phone call that would never come. Minyuk was in Seoul, but he might as well have been a ghost too. He'd moved 3 times since I left. New apartment, new neighborhood, new people. But he couldn't escape the thing he'd done. He saw my face in crowds. He heard my voice in silence. He woke up at 3 a.m., reaching for a friendship that had died the moment he'd let Jaehyun touch him. He'd tried to apologize. 100 times, 1,000 times. Letters he never sent. Voicemails that went unanswered. A message delivered through a mutual friend who told him, gently, that I didn't want to hear from him. Not now. Not ever. He understood. He hated himself for understanding. He was in therapy now. Twice a week, every week, for 2 years. He'd told the therapist everything. The jealousy, the loneliness. The way he'd watched me with Jaehyun and felt something ugly twist in his chest. The way he'd told himself it was just one time. The way he'd told himself it didn't mean anything. The way he'd kept doing it, because once he'd crossed the line, there was no reason to stop. Why do you think you did it? The therapist asked. Minyuk stared at his hands. Because I wanted to be chosen. I wanted someone to look at me the way he looked at him. And did he? No. He laughed, and it was ugly. He never looked at me at all. I was just there. I was just convenient. Did he ever make you feel that way? That you were just convenient? No. His voice cracked. He loved me. He loved me for 10 years. And I threw it away because I was jealous of what he had. The therapist waited. I didn't know what I had until it was gone. I didn't know. He stopped. Swallowed. I didn't know he was the one. Holding everything together. Me, him, us. When he left, it all fell apart. And I realized. His voice broke completely. I realized I never deserved him. The invitation arrived in Jaehyun's mailbox on a Tuesday. Cream paper, gold embossing, no return address. He almost threw it away. But something made him open it. You are cordially invited to the opening of Reclamation, a solo exhibition. By artist LCO. The works explore themes of survival, transformation, and the beauty of becoming. Busan Gallery of Contemporary Art. Saturday, 7 p.m. He stared at the card. LCO. CO. He thought about the private investigator's words. No record of Seo Jun under that name anywhere. He thought about the photograph on his wall, me laughing, him watching. He thought about the note on his counter. Don't look for me. He booked a ticket to Busan. Minyuk received the same invitation. He'd been getting them for years. He'd subscribed to the gallery's mailing list. After a friend mentioned seeing work there that felt like someone who had lost everything and found himself again. He'd never gone. He'd been too afraid of what he might see. But this one was different. This one was a solo exhibition. This one was by an artist named LCO. This one, he knew, was me. He stared at the card for an hour. Then he packed a bag and booked a ticket. The gallery was beautiful. White walls, soft lighting, the smell of fresh paint and flowers. I stood near the entrance, a glass of wine in my hand, watching the crowd filter in. I was nervous. I always was before an opening. But it was a good nervous, the kind that reminded me I was alive, that I was doing something that mattered. Mrs. Choi appeared at my elbow. They're here that I knew who she meant. I'd seen them before she did. Jaehyun, standing at the far end of the gallery. His face pale, his eyes fixed on the painting in front of him, a piece I'd done in my second year here, a man standing on a cliff, looking out at an endless sea. Minyuk, near the center of the room. His hand pressed to his mouth, his eyes wet, staring at a painting of 2 figures on a beach. One walking away, one standing still. That I took a breath. I let it out. I set down my wine glass. That I didn't go to them. I didn't avoid them. I just stood where I was, watching the crowd, watching the art, watching the 2 people who had once been my entire world. See for the first time the person I'd become without them. Jaehyun found me first. He'd been standing in front of my painting for 15 minutes, trying to find the words to explain what he was feeling. The man on the cliff, the endless sea. The way he stood like he was waiting for something or someone. He didn't know which. He didn't know anything anymore. He turned, and I was there. Not the man in the painting. Me. Real. 3 years older. My hair longer, my face softer. My eyes were different. They were calm. They were steady. They looked at him without anger, without sadness, without anything he could hold on to. Jaehyun. My voice was quiet. It was kind. It was the voice of someone who had let him go a long time ago. Seo Jun. The name caught in his throat. I've been looking for you. I know. You changed your name. Yes. Why? I looked at him for a moment. I didn't smile. I didn't frown. I just looked. Because the person who loved you no longer exists. He flinched. He couldn't help it. I came to apologize. I've been wanting to apologize for 3 years. I was wrong. I was so wrong. And he stopped. Swallowed. I never stopped loving you. I was quiet for a moment. Then, that's not love, Jaehyun. That's guilt. It's not. I know it's not. I've had 3 years to think about it. I've had 3 years to remember everything you did for me. Everything you gave me. Everything I threw away. And his voice cracked. I would give anything to go back. You can't go back. My voice was gentle. You can only go forward. I want to try. I want to. You want to what? Be forgiven? Be absolved? Be the person who made a mistake and was given another chance. I shook my head. I can't give you that, Jaehyun. I'm not the person who forgives anymore. I'm the person who survived. He stared at me. He was crying. I didn't cry. Who are you now? He asked. I smiled. It was a small smile, sad maybe, but real. I'm the person who left. He opened his mouth to say something else, but I was already turning away. There was nothing else to say. There hadn't been for 3 years. Minyuk found me in the back of the gallery, looking at a painting I'd finished last month. It was a man holding a star pendant. His hand open, the pendant falling. Light spilling from his palm. Seo Jun. I didn't turn around. Minyuk, I know you don't want to see me. I know you don't owe me anything. His voice broke. I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I turned. He was crying. He looked thinner than I remembered, older, more tired. He was wearing a necklace I didn't recognize, a small silver disc. Simple, unadorned. A pendant he'd chosen for himself. I know you're sorry. I said that I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I was jealous. I was lonely. I thought if I could have what you had, I'd be happy. But I wasn't. I was never happy. I know. He reached into his pocket. His hand was shaking. He pulled out a small box, opened it. Inside was a star pendant, identical to the one I'd taken from him 3 years ago. I had this made. I thought maybe if I could give it back, maybe. He stopped. He couldn't finish. I looked at the pendant. It was beautiful. The same star, the same chain, the same hope I'd given him 10 years ago, when we were young and I thought nothing could break us. I don't want it, I said. His face crumpled. I know I don't deserve. It's not about deserving. I reached out, closed the box, pressed it back into his hands. It's about letting go. You've been carrying this for 3 years. You've been carrying me for 3 years. It's time to put it down. He stared at me. Tears were streaming down his face. I don't know how. I thought about all the nights I'd spent trying to forgive them, trying to forget, trying to become someone who didn't need their apology to heal. I thought about the therapist who told me that forgiveness wasn't for them. It was for me. You start by being someone you can be proud of, I said. You start by being the person you wanted to be when you were young. The person you were before you got lost. He was crying too hard to speak. I touched his arm, just for a moment, just to let him know that I saw him, that I remembered who he'd been before all of this. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I haven't been for a long time. But I can't be your friend again. I can't be the person who makes you feel better about what you did. You have to do that yourself. He nodded. He was still crying. But he nodded. I let my hand drop. I turned back to my painting. After a moment, I heard him walk away. I was alone in the gallery, standing in front of the final piece of the exhibition. It was a portrait, a man standing on a beach. His face turned toward the sun, his arms open, light pouring from his chest. I'd painted it last year. After a morning when I woke up and realized I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't waiting. I wasn't hoping. I was just here. That's beautiful. I turned. A man was standing behind me. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair silvering at the temples. He was older than me, maybe late 30s, with sharp features and quiet eyes that held something I couldn't name. He was wearing a suit that cost more than my rent. But he looked at my painting like it was the most important thing in the room. Thank you. I've been watching you all night. He smiled, and it was warm. You're the artist, aren't you? LCO. I am. He extended his hand. Alexander Chun. I own the Chun Gallery in Seoul. I've been following your work for years. I was hoping to talk to you about a possible exhibition. I took his hand. His grip was firm, his palm warm. You came all the way to Busan to talk to me. I came all the way to Busan to see your work. He looked at the painting, then back at me, and to meet the person who painted it. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to feel. I only knew that for the first time in 3 years, someone was looking at me and seeing someone worth knowing. I smiled. Would you like to see the rest of the exhibition? He smiled back. I would like that very much. Alexander Chin was not what I expected. He was powerful. I'd heard of his gallery, his reputation, his place in the art world. He was rich, connected. The kind of person who could make or break careers with a word. But he was also patient. He was kind. He looked at my work like it mattered, like I mattered. He stayed in Busan for 3 days. He came to the gallery every night, watched the crowds, watched me. He asked questions about my work, my process, my life. He didn't ask about the past. He didn't ask about the 2 people who had been standing in the corner of my gallery, watching me, waiting for something I couldn't give them. On the last night, after the gallery closed, he took me to dinner. A small restaurant near the sea. The kind of place where no one knew who he was. Where no one knew who I was. We talked for hours. About art, about life, about the things we wanted to build. I'm not good at this, I said, somewhere between the wine and the dark. Being close to people. Trusting them. He didn't look away. Who said anything about trust? I laughed. I couldn't help it. You're asking me to work with you. To show my work in your gallery. That's trust. He considered this. Maybe. Or maybe it's recognizing something good and wanting to be part of it. He paused. I've been looking for something like your work for a long time. Something that speaks to what it means to survive. I looked at him. At this man who had come all the way to Busan to see a painting of a man on a beach. Who had stood in my gallery and watched me like I was something worth waiting for. What are you looking for, Alexander? He smiled. It was a quiet smile, a real one. I'll tell you when I find it. I moved to Seoul 6 months later. Not for him. For the work. The gallery he offered me was a chance I couldn't refuse. A platform for my art that I'd only dreamed of. But he was there. He was always there. At my openings, at my studio. At the small cafe near the gallery. Where we'd meet for coffee and talk about nothing. He didn't push. He didn't demand. He was just present. I started to trust him. Slowly, painfully, in ways I hadn't trusted anyone since before the betrayal. I told him about Jaehyun. About Minhyuk. About the cake on the floor, the star pendant. The years I'd spent trying to be enough for people who would never see me. He listened. He didn't offer solutions. He didn't tell me I should have left sooner. He just listened. And when I finished, he took my hand. You were always enough, he said. They just weren't enough for you. I didn't cry. I was done crying for them. But something in my chest loosened. Something I hadn't known was still tight. I looked at our hands.
His over mine. Warm and steady. What are we doing, Alexander? He looked at me. His eyes were quiet, but there was something in them that I was starting to recognize. Something that looked like hope. We're finding out, he said. Chapter 10. The Jealousy. Jaehyun saw us together at a gallery opening 6 months later. He'd been following my work. Since the exhibition in Bizen, he'd come to every opening, stood in the back, watched me from across the room. I didn't talk to him. I didn't avoid him. I just let him be. There, a ghost from a life I'd left behind. But this time was different. This time, Alexander was beside me, his hand on my back, his voice in my ear, his presence a wall between me and the past. I saw Jaehyun's face change. The way he looked at Alexander, at me, at the space between us that he could no longer cross. I saw him reach for me, pull back, reach again. I saw the moment he understood that I wasn't waiting anymore, that I'd never been waiting. He left before the opening ended. I didn't watch him go. Jaehyun started showing up everywhere after that. My gallery, my studio, the cafe where I had coffee with Alexander. He didn't talk to me. He didn't approach. He just stood there, watching, waiting for something I couldn't give him. Alexander noticed. He's been following you for weeks. I know. Do you want me to do something? I thought about it. About the years I'd spent waiting for Jaehyun to see me, to choose me, to love me the way I loved him. About the way he'd looked at me that last night, holding me in the dark, telling me he loved me hours after he'd been with someone else. No, I said. He'll stop when he's ready. Alexander didn't push. He never pushed. But I saw the way he looked at Jaehyun when he thought I wasn't watching. I saw the way his jaw tightened, his hands clenched. I saw the man who had built an empire from nothing, who had never let anyone take what was his. He was waiting. He was patient, but he was also dangerous. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of danger. It happened on a Tuesday. I was closing the gallery when Jaehyun appeared. He was drunk, his eyes red, his hands shaking. He'd been drinking for hours, maybe days. He looked like a man who had lost everything and didn't know how to stop losing. Seojin. I locked the door. I didn't run. I didn't call for help. I just stood there, waiting. I've been looking for you for 3 years. His voice cracked. 3 years. I've lost everything. My job, my friends, my family. I lost everything, and I still can't find you. You found me." He laughed. It was a terrible sound. No, it isn't. The man I'm looking for isn't here. He's gone. He left the night he stopped, swallowed. He left. And I've been looking for him ever since. I looked at him, at this man who had broken my heart, who had made me believe I was nothing, who had spent 3 years trying to find someone who no longer existed. He's gone. Jae-hyun. I know. He was crying. He was really crying, his face wet, his hands reaching for me. I know he's gone. I know I lost him. I need you to tell me. Tell you what? He looked at me. His eyes were desperate. Tell me he was real. Tell me he loved me. Tell me I didn't make it all up. I thought about the years I'd spent loving him. The years I'd spent hoping, waiting, believing that if I just loved him enough, he would see me. I thought about the cake on the floor, the frosting spreading across the wood, the sound it made when it hit. He was real, I said. He loved you. He loved you so much he forgot who he was. He nodded. He was crying too hard to speak. But he's not here anymore. He's been gone for a long time. He reached for me. I didn't move. His hand closed around my arm, his grip desperate, shaking. I can't let you go, he said. I can't. I've been looking for you for 3 years. I can't just. You can. I pulled my arm away, gently. You have to. He stared at me. He was breaking. I could see it happening. The last pieces of him crumbling. But I didn't reach for him. I couldn't. I made a mistake, he said. I looked at him. At this man who had been my whole world. Who had destroyed it. Who had spent 3 years trying to find something he'd already lost. You made a choice, I said. Now you have to live with it. I walked away. I didn't look back. Alexander was waiting for me at his apartment. He didn't ask what happened. He just opened the door, pulled me inside, held me while I shook. He's not going to stop, I said. I know. He's going to keep looking. He's going to keep hoping. He's going to keep. Seojin. Alexander's voice was quiet. He's not your responsibility. He never was. I looked at him, at this man, who had seen me at my worst and stayed, who had waited for me to be ready, who had never asked me to be anything but myself. What if I can't let him go? I whispered. He held me tighter. You already did. You let him go the night you walked out the door. Everything else is just remembering. I closed my eyes. I let him hold me. I let myself be held. 6 months later, Alexander asked me to be in his life. Not as an artist. Not as a friend. As something more. I said yes. I didn't say yes because he was powerful or rich, or because he could protect me from the past. I said yes because when I looked at him, saw someone who saw me. Not the man I'd been. Not the man I was becoming. But me, right now, right here. We were slow, we were careful, we were learning together what it meant to trust. And when Jae-hyun called again, when he left messages, I didn't answer. When he sent letters, I didn't read. I let them go. I let him go. I let all of it go. Because I wasn't the man who waited anymore. I was the man who left. And I never looked back. Epilogue. 5 years later, I'm standing in my gallery in Seoul, watching the crowd filter in for the opening of my new exhibition. Alexander is beside me, his hand on my back, his voice in my ear. He's telling me about the critics, the collectors, the people who came to see me. I'm not listening. I'm looking at the painting at the center of the room. It's a man standing on a cliff, looking out at the sea. Behind him, a city is burning. In front of him, the sun is rising. I painted it last year, after a morning when I woke up and realized I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid of the past. I wasn't afraid of the future. I was just here. Alexander squeezes my hand. Are you ready? I look at him, at this man who found me when I was lost, who waited for me to be found, who never asked me to be anything but myself. I'm ready, I say. I walk into the room. I let the light fall on my face. I let them see me, and for the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.